Good evening. I'd like to call this regular scheduled planning commission meeting to order. Let me get things straightened out up there. Here, Alex. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garcia?
Here.
Let the record show that Commissioner Cruciat has an excused absence. Commissioner Pahana?
Here.
Vice Chair Cure?
Here.
Chair Walker?
Here. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on demand on the City of 29 Palms website at www.29palms.org. You may also live stream this meeting by going to the city's website and clicking on the meeting's agenda link. Public comments. This is time for the public to address the Planning Commission on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission that are not on the printed agenda. All comments are to be directed to the chair of the commission and shall not consist of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional and courteous decorum during their comments. There's a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you've not already done so, please fill out a name and address slip and give it to the Planning Commission secretary. The Planning Commission is prohibited by the Brown Act, state law, from taking actions or discussing at length items not included on the printed agenda. Public comments on specific agenda items will be deferred until consideration of the agenda item. I'm going to open public comment. Do I have any public comment for items not on the agenda? I'm going to close public comment. Commissioner comments and reports of meetings attended. We'll start with Leslie.
Well, good evening, everybody. I attended the last city council meeting, and I would just like to thank Mr. Klink and his family for his 20 years of service, and congratulations on your retirement. Congratulations to Mayor Bildrain and on his reelection as well, and then the election of April Ramirez for District 2, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys. And I just wanted to thank the city staff for all of your hard work and dedication, and happy holidays to everybody.
Jessica.
I attended some of the holiday things going on in town, the holiday parade and tree lighting, the Historical Plaza holiday event, Corner 62 holiday party with the ribbon cutting for white vinyl. Very holiday spirit this month.
Alex.
I didn't attend any meetings, but we did a pretty large clothing drive that was able to clothe quite a few people and feed a lot of different people. And I want to say thank you to the people that did help me organize it. And it wouldn't have been able to be possible if it weren't for those people. So I appreciate it. And I think we should have more community-driven action in our small community. So thanks.
I haven't attended any meetings, but I did attend several of the holiday events that the city's put on. I really enjoyed them. My daughter had a good time at them, so I'm going to thank the city for that. Moving on to the consent calendar, we have 2 items on the consent calendar. They can be we can approve the consent calendar as one item, or we can do it separately if somebody has a change to one of the items. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
I don't have a change, but I wasn't here for the homeless and housing, so. Okay.
Yeah. I motion that we approve the consent calendar for the 2 items.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana?
Aye.
Vice Chair Cure?
Aye.
Chair Walker?
Aye.
Approved?
Moving on to public hearings. Staff report, please.
All right, so item number 3 is another in the series of properties that we're really trying to clean up as a city. This is 6664 Sahara Avenue. What you're seeing here are the current conditions. Obviously, trash and debris, boarded up buildings. It has quite a few violations. Again, I'm not going to read every single one here, but there are numerous violations on this particular property. And in this property we've been going back and forth with the property owner in this since 2009. We have found out that the owner is deceased. We have been unable to find any successors in interest. Okay. So it is now boarded up. We've got notices of pendency on the property. And what we are recommending is that we formally declare this a public nuisance and allow code enforcement to do the requisite property abatements. Officially speaking, what that means is the property owner has a certain amount of time to rectify the situation and get any particular permits. If they don't, the city would now be allowed to go in and demolish and abate the property and get it all cleaned up. And the any costs associated with this will eventually be reviewed by the city council, which would then be put on a lien on the property if the planning commission takes this action. So that is our presentation.
Do we have questions or comments from anyone up here?
No.
Okay, I'm going to open public comments on this one. Does anybody wish to provide public comment? Close public comment. Further discussion from up here? Can I have a motion?
I motion that, we. Oh, I was just about to. That we declare 6664 Sahara Avenue a public nuisance and dangerous building and adopt the resolution per staff report.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cure,
Aye.
Chair Walker,
Aye.
approved.
Moving on to item number 4.
Again, this is another property that we're trying to get cleaned up. This is 7535 Sherman Hoyt Avenue. Again, lots of trash and debris, boarded up buildings, and lots of tires. Again, lots of violations that are on the property. Again, I'm not going to read this verbatim. And this has been, since 2022? Since 2022, so a little bit more recent than the others, but still a significant code enforcement effort. Several citations, notice of abatement, and so we are making the same recommendation as the last one, that we declare it a public nuisance and a dangerous building, so that way we can move forward with forcing the cleanup and recovering any costs per the city council's approval.
Can you go back one slide, please? Okay, thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from anyone up here?
My question is, it says you spoke with the owner, and so what have been the responses?
Yeah, we've spoken to the owner several times, and they continue to promise that they're gonna do what they're supposed to do to bring it up. But there hasn't been a resolution. It hasn't moved forward, and it hasn't progressed at all. It's stayed the same. All they've done is obscure the fencing. They put like a temporary fencing, but every time it falls down, then everything falls right out of it into the neighboring parcels. So
Okay.
How old are these? Are they elderly? Are they disabled or anything like that?
Do we have more questions or comments from up here?
So, because that's a good question about the elderly. When we do have a property owner that's elderly, we try to partner them up either with Reach Out or any of the other organizations that are in town to help them do the cleanup efforts. We even go as far as trying to partner with the Single Marine Program and acquire a response from the owner that allows us to go and help them and try to clear it out. But these are not these cases.
Do we have anything like that for people that just, like, a lot of the time for people who houses like that, they suffer from some kind of mental illness or, certain things. Do we have anything for people that have homes like that and may just need assistance in clearing out the area?
We don't, but the only other avenue we would go is to contact social services, but then again, it would be up to the person to wanna participate with them or kind of disclose whatever is going on with them to help them remove the debris. We try to talk to them and try to get an action plan on how they can do it. We have one gentleman, he said it got out of hand and I don't know where to start. So we kind of grid his property and we've made it where it's like every 2 months we go out there and he has just one little area that he needs to make sure that he clears. And it's working because he's now focused, okay, this is my grid, this is what I'm doing now. But it takes a lot of work, and then we try to partner them up with other organizations. And, a lot of the churches are willing to help them, but it takes them to be willing to have them come to their home, and a lot of them don't want that. They don't want people coming to their home.
So this resident hasn't even been willing to even say, I'd like to do this, but I just need some help. And
Nobody lives in the house currently. It's
Oh.
currently empty.
Okay.
He shows up ever so often, and then we'll catch him because the neighbor will call us and say, hey, he's at the house now.
got it.
But yeah, there has been no progress, and it's going to be a significant cleanup effort, mostly because of the tires. There's over 1,000 tires on this property.
Got it. Any more questions, comments? Okay, we're gonna open public hearing. Anybody wanting to speak on this item number 4? Going once. Okay. We're gonna close public hearing. Do we have any more discussion or questions from up here? Can I get a motion?
I motion to do what the staff recommended. I'm not going to read all of it, but
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia,
aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cure,
Aye.
Chair Walker,
Aye.
approved.
Moving on to agenda item number 5.
This is the third property and final property of today's agenda, where we're looking at doing a cleanup. 72083 Sunnyslope Drive. This is actually burned out building. It did suffer a fire. And there's trash and debris, dangerous building, et cetera, et cetera. Again, numerous violations. And this is a fairly recent case, but we determined, because of the nature of the fire and the potential dangerous condition of the property, we want to move on this more expeditiously. And it looks like we have not been able to get a hold of the property owners to abate. So we're taking this recommendation to the Planning Commission now to allow us to go clean up the property and basically bill them for the cost.
Can you go back 2 slides?
1, 2.
Okay, thank you.
So since we haven't been able to make contact with the owner, we don't know if their insurance is,
Yeah.
they're still going through the process of getting their insurance to do whatever or anything like that, right?
Nothing. We've sent everything we've mailed out has been returned. They haven't signed for anything. There's no contact. We posted on the property and nothing. All we know is that the neighborhood is seriously being impacted by it.
Do you
How
have any
long-
idea how the fire? Go ahead.
How long ago did it burn down?
It's been a while. It's not a recent fire. It's been a while. It just came to our attention from the neighborhood.
I've actually driven by this house many times. Yeah.
It's been there for a while.
Questions or comments from up here? All right, I'm gonna open public hearing. Anyone wanting to speak on item number 5? I don't see you rushing to the podium. I'm gonna close public hearing. Further discussion from up here? Do I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
I have
I'll
a mo-
second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Oh, this didn't come on, sorry.
Okay, moving on to item number 6, AUP 24 dash a bunch of zeros and a 3.
All right.
Cycling center buyback, small center.
Yeah, so this is an application for a 499 square foot location located at 71747 29 Palms Highway in the Stater Brothers Shopping Center. It is zoned for commercial general, which does allow these types of activities. There is a bit of a nuance in the development code that if this is a primary use of a tenant space, then it has to go before the planning commission. That's why we're here today. Otherwise, the AUP would be done at a staff level. Okay, and this is the site plan of the shopping center. What you're looking at is this small tenant space way down here in the corner. And this is the proposed floor plan, relatively simple floor plan for 499 square feet. These are the photos of the proposed location, which I believe have also been handed out to you. We did receive some correspondence, which we have passed out. I know the applicants are here to answer questions and give a presentation if they would like. As of right now, we're recommending that the Planning Commission approve of this accessory use permit.
I have a question, Chair.
Ask away.
Thank you. Can you go back to those pictures referring to the site? This is proposed in our city? Those pictures, one more, over? Yes.
There's an existing site.
Not yet, sir. We'll
Okay,
call
sorry.
you up.
Yes, sir.
This
Yeah.
is not, of another location.
another
Oh,
location.
sorry. I didn't see the word other.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do we have questions or comments up here from the staff report?
Not from the staff report.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask the applicant if they'd like to come up and speak.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you guys for letting us be here. The only reason we're speaking, we spoke to Diana also, and she said that everything is okay, but we heard that a different recycling center or competitor had an issue with this agenda, so we just want to address that. If you guys need us to, if not, then we're okay with just proceeding as it goes, as it went.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to open public comment. As Keith mentioned, hold on, sir, not yet. Can you bring your blue slip up here to the planning secretary? Thank you. Are you Mr. Johnny Ward? I am. Okay, then I will give you the floor, sir.
All right. I just got a few questions. We don't run from competition. It's a beautiful thing. Our economy, our government is built on it. First question is, why AUP instead of a CUP? The next question, well, more of a statement is, you guys are saying 499 square feet. It's listed at 1,178. And when Winging It had that spot, they also have paperwork from the San Bernardino County that's saying it's 1,178 feet. Also, why allow in a zone that is not zoned for industrial? There's an industrial spot 2 blocks away. Can I ask them a question too?
Sir, you have 3 minutes.
Is this your first recycling business center? So you know that this
Please direct your comments to the chair, sir.
Okay.
Up here.
Well, can you ask them if they know that this zone is already served and what happens when another recycler comes into a convenient zone that's already served?
Yes. We'll get to asking them
Okay.
questions.
Well, I wanted to know the name of the company. I know it now. And you can ask them, are they aware that if they come into our zone and stop our handling fees, that they won't ever be eligible to receive handling fees? This is in the statute of Cal Recycle 1458C1. So my question is, why are you coming into our convenient zone, which Cal Recycle should have already told you is served by us, First Stater Brothers, within a 5-mile district, instead of taking the 3 that are in Yucca Valley that are unserved? And you guys also should have been aware that we were just granted $800,000 from Cal Recycle to do pop-ups. So we'd be dropping locations right next to your recycling center. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comments on this item? I'm gonna close public comment. Do we have more questions and discussions from up here?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Okay. I think there's a few details that are not allowing me to feel prepared to make a decision on this tonight. There's a lot of conflicting information, and if maybe the other commissioners want to ask some questions before I make my next statement.
Continue on with your next statement.
Well, I would like more time to research this, and so I suggest tabling it till a date certain.
There's a lot I don't know about recycling.
Yeah.
And both parties have there's a lot of information here. And the last thing I do want to do is compromise another business for any reason due to things that I don't understand. If there is a way of having both parties, both businesses work, because I think recycling is really important for a lot of people that are dealing with financial issues. So, but I do kind of agree with Leslie.
I was just provided a lot of information as soon as I sat down this evening, and that wasn't necessarily in the agenda packet. So I think that's what's causing the need to want to look into this more.
I agree. All the information on the California codes regarding recycling, we're reading through it here, but we're not looking at the actual code or being able to bring it up. So that's part of the issue for me as well.
And then, so my question is, if you take this floor plan we are given, it calls it out at 18.4 feet by 30, that's over the
439.
that's over 499 size-wise. So can we get, I'm with everyone else, we were, given a large amount of information as we sat down, and making a decision on the 2 minutes to read through a lot of information makes it real hard. So I'm with everybody else. I would like to, I'm okay with tabling this to a date certain, but I want to make sure that we're giving you guys direction to help kind of answer the questions we might have. So I would like to see, because we're being told by somebody that the space is twice the size of what, and if it is bigger, it would not fall in the realm of an AUP, correct? It would be, we'd have to do a CUP for it?
Yeah, and we can look into that too. So if we're looking at tabling it to a date certain, the next available date would be January the 21st. January 21st.
I think that gives us comfortable time to kind of read through some of these other codes that relate directly to recycling stuff that aren't necessarily codes we talk about on a daily basis. the group of us, and then also to get you guys to get some more information.
Yeah, and I think if we can answer all the questions that were asked, you know, about the zoning, about the space, AUP versus CUP, the handling fees and all of those types of questions, if we can get it kind of pre-answered, if that's possible.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at now is January the 17th. I don't know if we wanted to give the
January
applicant.
17th?
I'm sorry, the
21st.
21st.
But do you want to get
Yes.
any of the applicant to answer in these questions now for public comment now, and then
I
come
mean,
back?
if you have some
Since they're here?
information that would be helpful, we'd appreciate it, so please. Yeah, yes.
Well, I want to thank you guys again for letting us be here. As he said, I brought some information. We were driving here, and Diane called us and said, "Hey, there's a letter that came from the competition. You know, just so you're prepared. You know, this is what's going on." Regarding the zones, all the zones are cleared, and we are allowed to be in that zone. This is not industrial where we take metals, where we take cardboard, where we take all that stuff. This is just a small beverage center, beverage recycling center, where customers that are coming from Stater Brothers and from now grocery outlets are able to come and recycle their empty beverage containers. To answer, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but to answer the questions regarding convenience zone and handling fees, I have, we went straight to the library, close by library, we printed out the definitions of what a convenience zone is and what a handling fee is. So convenience zone is established within a grocery store that does over $2 million in sales. So what that means is when Cal Recycle, which is the Department of Recycling Centers, created this law, they wanted for customers and consumers to have a convenient place to bring their recyclables to recycle. So that convenience zone was within a mile of that grocery store. So, and then you get a handling fee. The handling fee is the extra payment that you get from the state because you're within the convenience zone, within that mile. Now, this competition is nowhere near the 1 mile. He did get an extra, a boost because there was no other recycling centers within the convenience zone. The state has granted him a handling fee. By the definition of a handling fee and convenience zone, he does not qualify for that. Not only does not he qualify because of the distance, but there's also not a dealer on his location, which he's not next to a grocery store or next to a liquor store or any other market. So he's just an industrial zone that he's currently taking, whether metal or other stuff, I'm not exactly 100% sure, but he's within an industrial zone. Now, we're coming from Los Angeles. We have a lot of recycling centers. So I'm just gonna read a little bit because we drove here and we wrote this out, so that way I don't miss anything that I wanted to say, if that's okay with you guys.
Go ahead.
And some of the stuff might be repeated again, but I just wanted to at least say those things and then answer a couple more questions that he might have maybe in this letter, okay? First, I would like to thank you for all being here and your focus on the center. I don't think Diane is here, but I want to thank Diane also for helping me guide us in this process of obtaining the permit as well. As we were driving here, we received an email opposition of this permit being approved. So I would like to respond to that first, then provide more information about our recycling facilities. Regarding the concept concerns receiving from an existing center and the city of possible losing a handling fee, let me explain. Handling fees are given to a recycling center that is convenient to an eligible site, large grocery store. To make it convenient for a customer that purchases beverages at their local grocery stores to have a convenient place to recycle their empty beverage containers, since everybody pays the deposits on those beverages, by law, they should be able to refund those, have a convenient place for them to get their refund back. To qualify for a handling fee, a recycling center must be within a mile of a grocery store site so the consumer is not wasting time and gas on going far away for recycle. This site that recycling center will be operating is exactly at the location Cal Recycle prefers. Pros Recycling was able to qualify for this funding because he was the only center available in 29 Palms. But that does not mean he is entitled to per the regulations which I have provided to you guys. We have no issues with other recycling centers that operate in California. never have, never will. Pros Recycling will still have all other fundings, including the 800,000 that he's talking about, that any other funding that they were talking about from Cal Recycle, just not the one that this site is not entitled to, which is the handling fee that we're speaking of. The handling fee payment ranges between $500 and an extra $1,000, which Cal Recycle provides for us to be in an urban area for consumers to be able to recycle within their little zone, instead of purchasing at Stater Brothers or grocery outlets and then driving 5 miles down the industrial zone, down the through dirt or whatever it is. Not everybody, when you make it so complicated to recycle, not everybody will recycle, so they will just throw the things away. So our centers that operate, we are purposely within the convenience zone, so people like family members, people that are just doing small little recycling, whether you buy a 12-pack of Coke or you buy a 24-pack of water, you're able to just bring those bottles in and be able to recycle, and instead of just throwing that in trash, or not be able to have the ability to drive 5 miles away for those 60 cents. It's really no longer convenient for you to drive for 60 cents 5 miles away. So I just want to explain that. Regarding the grants that he's speaking about on drop-offs and bag drops-off, this has nothing to do with the way we operate. He will still have all the fundings, he could still have all the bag drops, and I'm not sure exactly other questions that he asked. Regarding the zones are correct. The zones we called before we submitted, we made sure that everything is correct. The property owners and Stater Brothers are the ones that asked us to be there. So we made sure with the city that everything was okay before we have applied. And we made sure with Cal Recycle that they're good with this and they prefer this location and they are 100% behind us. So we thank you very much. And then the owner also would like to say something.
Good evening. My name's Maria. I'm the owner of the CRV Only Store Recycle Centers. I operate them throughout Los Angeles County and Ventura County. So the purpose of my centers is exactly what was said before. It's to make it as convenient as possible for customers to recycle their empty beverage containers. So that's what I'm here to do. I operate efficient, clean centers, emphasizing on customer service, convenience, not just for the large customers that do recycling for profit, but mostly for the average consumer that just want to receive their deposit back as they're entitled to do. So for this location specifically, I'd be located a few steps away from Stater Brothers, Dollar Tree next door, grocery outlet across the store. And so that's very important for the convenience. They're selling high quantities of beverage containers, so it only makes sense that the customers can come back and recycle them as well. There are many recycle centers. They're in industrial zones, outdoors, further away. Some of my centers are located within convenience zones that receive handling fees, and I own ones that don't either. So besides my centers, there are thousands of other facilities that don't have handling fees as well. So this funding, handling fee specifically, doesn't deter a person from opening a center or closing one. It's merely an additional incentive that Cal Recycle offers to push for having centers located exactly where they need to be. So I don't think, we haven't heard of a single resident of the city having an issue with this permit. So I just wanted to be given the opportunity to operate and serve the community. I really think that we'd be an asset here. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more question, was why 29 Palms?
We currently got contracts from Stater Brothers and large grocery outlets that are looking for their customers to be able to easily recycle their cans and bottles. They like our stores. Our stores are indoor. Our stores are simply operated. We have simple hours and good reviews on all of our centers. We are working with Rolf's. We're working with different grocery stores that are currently in your area. So not only 29 Palms, we have applications, Barstow that just got approved. We have ones in Palm Springs. We have nothing to do with how many recycling centers are operated. There's many recycling centers that are operated. We get a contract, the state calls us, they say there's not somebody that's convenient enough for this center. We're getting complaints, whether it's from somebody that's on a wheelchair, doesn't matter what the complaints are. It's not satisfying. The point right now is it's not satisfying where there's only one recycling center and it's further away from this convenience zone. So when the state called, we have looked at our list, we did all of our list, we called the property owner, we called the city, we did all the plans, we did everything exactly what they asked for. The square footage, we're only using 500 square feet. The rest of the space is for customers to walk in. We're not using that. The site plan that we have shown, that's exactly what the location is gonna look like. We're not here to change any of the stuff. This is another location that's exactly 500 square feet. If you look at the picture, from West Hills, people are coming in from the front. Then we get all of our bags from the back, so no traffic, no nothing, no big roll-off containers, none of that stuff. It's a simple, for your family, operated recycling center where customers that are at the grocery stores able to bring their 10, or if they want to bring a lot, they could bring it over to us. So besides 29 Palms, we have other contracts, and if you go look on our website, we have many of the different locations. We didn't just specifically point here. They pointed us to here because they needed a recycling center that was convenient enough for the consumers. And he did get a grant because of that, but we were already in the application of that. So he's able to do more convenient drop-offs where people might be able to drop it off at the library or whatever it is, but it has nothing to do with an actual recycling facility, which is operated during business hours that are stated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question, if I may. So when you gather all of this, what is the pickup after the customer service? Like, what does the rest of the operation look like?
Yes, ma'am. So the way it works is the customer walks in through the front, they'll bring their bags. If they have a lot, we'll help them bring it in. If they don't have a lot, they'll walk right in, dump their beverage containers, empty beverage containers into those baskets. We'll get those baskets, we'll weigh them out right there on the scale, which is certified, which is, has the seal on it. Once they're done with that, we take them and we put it in a bigger bag. We have the the employees able to dump them in the bag. We have a pickup truck that comes, that's a box truck, a 16-foot box truck, comes from the back, does not disturb any of the parking spaces in the front, the customer parking space, none of that stuff. He comes from the back, whether it's a busy location where we come once a day. If it's a slow location that might be 29 Palms, we might be here once a week. It really doesn't matter. Like, once we have a certain amount of empty beverage containers that are completely clean, we'll pick it up from the back, we'll take it to our processor, we'll recycle all of that stuff over there, and then we just go on with the same way over and over and over.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We also have a sink for customers to wash their hands, things that an outdoor recycling center, industrial recycling center will not have, things that will deter people from recycling. So that's the whole point of having a convenient recycling center.
Thank you. Any more questions before we?
Well, that's a lot of helpful information. It sounds like, it's like we have free market, so we can have multiple businesses of the same things. I guess what's conflicting is that did which is none of my business, but if Cal Recycle decided to give a grant of $800,000 and then also additionally to mobilize, and then additionally go, okay, this one's going to be in a convenient location indoors, go for it. Now we just have a mobile one that's where the conflict is happening, right? Could potentially happen. So we can have 2 recycling centers in 29 Palms, correct?
Yes.
We've had it before.
Yes, at the same site.
The conflict is, I guess, turf or territory, or who gets the rights to this specific areas, or does that? I guess those are the questions. Like, I don't know if, like, do we approve that? Or are we having a conflict with the state of California recycling program?
I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what researching the California code portion for that would identify
And
for
it would
us.
just be to support our approval that we're in line with, or does that even matter? That's just like the way of the world with them, and
Yeah.
we allow it. We can allow it. This building is allowed to be there. It is not industrial, and this type is allowed inside of that building. Okay.
Yeah, it's zone commercial general.
So if it's technically the space itself is more than the 499, and they're saying it's only using a certain amount, does that change
It sounds like it
the
does.
AUP to the CUP?
I'd have to look at the development code to be 100%
Beca-
sure.
Even if customer facing is only $4.99, like there's still a whole operation going on in the back. So if that changes it, I would like it to be filed appropriately, which sounds more like it might have to get.
Yeah, and a CUP comes before the planning commission also.
Yeah.
Right,
So
so it's a preview.
Yeah.
it's basically the same process.
It's the same thing, just identifying it differently.
Okay, so I have a better understanding, but are we all still in agreement of the time?
I think, yes, I would like, just because of the California stuff, and they're confusing is all get out anyway. So, some,
Well, I know that, okay, so California has their state laws, but it doesn't, I guess what's difficult is there are some errors that maybe need to be corrected, but both can exist.
Yes.
So I think my struggles now are approving something that's incorrectly written in a resolution, which would be the 499 square feet.
Yes.
And if it's not an AUP, and it needs to be a CUP and applied for correctly.
Sure, and
Okay.
then if the commission decides to continue that, we can get that cleaned up
Okay.
by the time we meet again.
so we could, if we continue to date certain, we could have it all kind of straightened out before
Yeah,
the 21st.
I would feel more
Okay.
comfortable with that, so I can at least have some kind of
And then you could
understanding
research
more.
personally if you want that California law, but what it sounds like is it's all allowed. We allow this. It's just cleaning up our side of it, AUP, CUP, and square footage.
I feel as if it's same market, different demographics. So
Well, I think they're competing for the same, and that's why the 800,000
The-
mobilization to be in that area was about to be their convenience center, but now there's a whole nother company
Yeah.
coming in.
But isn't
And in situations like this, we can contact Cal Recycle as a city entity, and then we can also ask for the correspondence from the various applicants to get,
Well, I think if
make sure we're all on the same page as
if-
to what their requirements are.
if they gave the handling fees to this one because there was no other one and it's outside the 1 mile radius, and confirm that that would be changing if that was the fact.
They
Like
were given an-
confirmation from the actual Cal Recycle of these questions.
Yes, that's exactly what
Yeah,
Mr. Gardner said.
And it's a little, we are making a land use decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question that's gonna be before you, once this is situated and clarified, is, should that type of activity
Be
Yeah.
go
allowed,
there?
yeah.
Because as a pure land use decision, that's what we're.
So remove everything else and just clean up those couple items and.
And then we'll get clarification from Cal Recycle as to what kind of approvals, and because I would consider this something similar to like an ABC license. We typically get copies of the ABC license once someone is allowed to sell beer and wine. I would consider this something along the same lines.
I absolutely love the idea. It's hot. And if I want to recycle, how nice to go into an air conditioned building. Like, I like the idea, and I get that there's free market and competition, and I don't know if that's so much 29 Palms business, what they have agreements with that, or whether, we're just, like you said, to your point, Director, is that we just need to land use, but
Right.
have our paperwork appropriate.
I agree.
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so we've never, that I can remember, done continued something to a date certain.
Oh, yes.
did last.
Oh, yes, we have.
meeting.
That's okay.
My memory's slipping, then I'm getting old. So what is the process? Do we just take a, okay, there we go, perfect.
I would like to make a motion to move this agenda item to a date certain of January 21, 25.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cure,
Aye.
Chair Walker.
Aye. Okay, let me find where I'm at here on this. Moving on to discussion and potential action items, number 7, undergrounding of the utilities for Resort Reset Hotel.
Okay, this was before you last month. This, and I did a little bit of a cleanup because there were actually two conditions of approval to refer to undergrounding. The request is for the deferment of the undergrounding of utilities until phase 2 or 5 years, whichever comes first. Those are the two particular relevant conditions of approval from the Reset Hotel that pertain to undergrounding utilities. This is the actual property in question here in blue. Just as a reference point, it is next to two city facilities and other properties owned by the same company. This is a site plan of the entire property. As a blow up, and I have the applicant here, it may be a little hard to see, but there are 3 poles here in yellow that are the subject of the request, which are currently located here. And I know the applicant is here to expound on the information if needed. And this is what they look like currently. And then we can have the applicant expound on these slides now or after my presentation.
After,
Okay.
please.
And I'll come back to it. So the process, if the commission were to approve of this deferral, then we would go into a deferral agreement, expending the terms we just talked about, 5 years or until phase 2. And since the planning commission originally approved of the reset, the planning commission has the power to defer these conditions. Those are 4 findings that we have to meet. One is the request shall be supported by cost estimates, which are part of the staff report. The cost of the undergrounding on adjacent properties exceeds the reasonable cost. The property owner shall be required to enter a deferral agreement, which we have, and undergrounding of utilities in a manner consistent with surrounding improvements directly abutting the subject property at that time that such undergrounding shall occurs. So in other words, a no objection. So those are, if we were to move forward, if the commission were to move forward with it, we'd have to make those findings, and we do have a resolution, a draft resolution for you to consider as part of, or no, do we? I don't think we do. I don't think we need one. That's right. My apologies. So if you wish to allow this deferment, we need to make those findings. So on that, that concludes my presentation. I know the applicant is here, and we also have received several correspondences in opposition to this particular request, which I've also forwarded to the applicant.
Do we have questions before the applicant? Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to confirm, did you say 5 years or till phase 2?
That's
So that
what
wasn't
we had
on it?
previously chatted about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something that's new from the previous that was
Right.
in, okay. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yeah, you did.
When we passed the whole removing Foothill,
The vacate?
yes, I feel as if there was mention of phase 2 not happening. And I was wondering if we can possibly go through those minutes eventually or something to see like if that was said or if there was a misunderstanding, because
We have the applicant's engineer who was part of that discussion last time, who is also here tonight.
Yeah. And I also say I watched the meeting and made a note of exactly what was said, which was by the engineer, so we'll get her response, but was the applicant deemed they are no longer planning on doing phase 2. They've told the city staff they are relinquishing all rights to phase 2. So part of that is part of what it was. And then also the question of, for the city staff, is that, did that happen?
Well, relinquishing it means that maybe they're not responsible for that part of the development. Not that it would never happen, but that as that developer, builder, or consultant, they're not going to be doing phase 2.
and that's where like it gets a little weird for me, because even in the report it says until 6 to 9 months, in mid or late, was it late 25
When they open.
when they'll start phase 2, but the deferment is for up to 5 years, right?
So the
Or
deferment of 5 years was created by us. We said that as a compromise, and then we had mentioned that, or until phase 2. And that comes from when we did the car wash that we had mentioned.
Right,
eight-
when we
5 years or a
went
second
over it,
development,
right.
yeah. Mhm.
So my question just for the city staff is, was that something that was discussed to not to relinquish the rights to phase 2 with the city staff?
I don't
Yeah.
recall having those exact words on there, but to the point of the phase 2 or 5 years, that was
Okay.
per the discussion we had last time.
Thank you.
My question, you had proposed our 4 findings, and if our development code mentions that undergrounding is a requirement, and we do the building and permits, and we do all this, and that's more or less the standard that we're setting is undergrounding. And then it says that I have to find a finding if the cost is to absorb, like, too much for the project. So that, to me, is conflicting.
That's the way the development code reads.
Yeah.
So I would like sometime next year, if that's something we need to bring up, because here, we're like round 2 with the same discussion regarding the same thing about development
And
and new
what-
builds.
And I think clarity too is there's confusion, I think, from different people, and I don't know who thinks what, but the ordinance states that the deferment can be only for existing off-site. So it's not, so anything that would be newly added would have to be underground no matter what.
Right. And they have the right to the deferment in this process, and I understand that. But it just seems like if you're doing the building and you're doing it, it's all there and the contractors are there, like, why isn't this a forethought and not, why is it surprisingly becoming an afterthought? And is that the catch during the building permit phase, or, because I reviewed a site plan and agreed to the site plan, but maybe I didn't ask for the underground utilities in that site plan at that time. I'm just trying to find like that fail point so that it doesn't continue to happen, or if it's truly addressing that need to code adjustment.
And I suppose how soon can you get that information? Is that $300,000 should be information that's accessible and at least before building, right? Or is it something that they have to assess after it's built? I don't know. That's why I'm just curious.
Well,
You'd assume if it's in 29 Palms code that, hey, we require this. Right. Yeah, there's a deferral process over here, but we require it. But then it's like phases are happening and then it's not. So that part's what's got me.
I think some of that is, I have questions on as well, but a lot of it would, I think, for the applicant itself, and then in the presentation would have more questions after.
I
Fair.
agree. I'm okay for a public comment.
My real quick question is, does SoCal Edison have to be the one to do this? Like,
I
Fine.
think the last one was a proposal provided by that particular
Right.
entity,
but
but not.
if they don't have to do this, there's other vendors that could probably do it, that would do it cheaper. But if SoCal, they have to make the tie-in, right, from the power that's not being undergrounded to the power that is, do they have to do the work? So I guess that's better a question for you. So are we good with kind of our questions for staff?
For now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, can you please come forward, sir?
Hi, my name is Ben Ueda. I'm one of the developers. Sorry about the last time. We had a bit of a mishap and didn't make it, but what did allow us to gather some of the questions. So Keith, if you go to the first slide, please. Up, one more forward, Keith.
That
Okay.
one? Yeah.
These are all the existing poles. The 3 in yellow are the 3 that are to be, that would be undergrounded, the ones in questions, the ones that we're asking the deferment for. Go to the next slide, Keith. So these 3 power poles. Now, on our site already, we've paid for the undergrounding. We want things to be undergrounded. We've spent about $220,000 to trench all the way between those. So right now, inspected by some of the nice people that share an office with Keith, they inspected all that conduits in the ground, all the large Donald Judd-looking concrete boxes in the ground. We have no problem paying for construction. It's what we do. We like it. Goes into the local economy. It's great. Now the part in question, and we got a cost estimate from our engineer, from our electrician that did all the work. He said for him to do those 3 poles would be about $70,000. But only SCE can do this. And this isn't something that you know until they start to plan, but they don't give you that plan until they start construction. And even then, the amount of emails you have to send them and track them down and call them to get a response in a timely manner, well, let's just say it makes the DMV look like really well-established community servants. Next slide, please. So this is where we've already put everything underground. All the boxes are in. If you drive by them, you can see them. Again, love it. Every new utility we want it to be underground. We're not a big fan of utility poles and the views. But what we're asking for, and this is why it's a deferment, not to remove this from our requirements, is that we want time to be able to negotiate with a monopoly that is the only one to do that, because that allows us to work out an agreement with them that's over time and stuff like that. So it's really about that flexibility. Now, the phase 2 part I think is pretty critical, and I apologize for the confusion. Originally, when we submitted for the CUP, we had a specific location for the phase 2. That was when we only had a smaller pieces of land. Since then, we've added a substantial amount of land that was then sort of consolidated together. So it's not that we were never going to do the phase 2, it just wasn't going to be in the location that was indicated on that original site plan when we submitted. So that's what we're talking about. We're not doing that phase 2, but having already put in our very beautiful packaged sewage treatment plant, shout out to Vicky, that was a pretty big infrastructure. Again, we like bringing new infrastructure to this area. It's really hard, it's what we do, and it's why there hasn't been a lot of new construction of this type in the last, I don't know, I think about 15 years. So we had the sewage plant there. We're very incentivized to capitalize off of that. We also want to be mindful of how we grow out small, slow, and steady. See what works, see what people are responding to, and not just do the biggest thing we could possibly do all at once. In talking with Keith's sort of predecessor, that was one of the things that we kind of like, hashed out and thought would be an appropriate way to respond. So again, we're already underground. It's all ready to go. We just want to negotiate with the one entity that's allowed to do this. And I think this is the critical precedent, if you were to sort of revisit this in the future, is yes, encourage people to do construction. We're going to be doing curb and gutter. That's all great. That's stuff that we can get multiple bids on. We can get creative. We can come over and meet with them. But when there's only one entity, and then the local government is insisting in a very specific way, with not a lot of boundaries to try to just give you a little bit of negotiation, to use that one monopoly to provide something where they can name whatever price they want with no transparency on how they got there. It just is what it is, and you take it or you wait. So I think that's the part where I think the flexibility of the deferment becomes critical, not the shirking of the responsibility. And let's see if we got one more slide, Keith, or is that about it? Okay, so these are our very nice concrete boxes. Those are already underground. That trench is now, if you drive by, a little bit longer, and the conduit distributing through site is in place. And yeah, we want to get everything underground. We heard some interesting comments about sort of ravens and all that. Totally on board. Let's get them all underground all along there. But let's do it in a way where we can use as much possible like local contractors. We're using David Van Dykes. He's like our neighbor basically. He's done a ton of work for us, doing a fantastic job, built our sewage treatment plant, doing a lot of this stuff as well. We love that. That's great. That's good for everybody here. Making sure that a lot of money goes outside of the community in a non-competitive way. Well, just about everyone that does anything here is going to have to deal with SCE at some point. And I think as a community to be a little bit more on the citizen size, definitely not having them shirk responsibilities, but make sure the money stays with our like local vendors as much as possible. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna open public comment. So I've received 3 letters in the mail. One from Vino Northrodge, one from Cindy Bernard, one from Pat Flanagan. I'm gonna summarize real quick. Vino's letter is he's in favor-ish with some conditions. He has some ideas. He's got 5 kind of key points. One, asking if the applicant knew about this beforehand. Two, was the developer in, two doesn't count so much. Three talks more about the city getting grants for the developer. Four, if the developer feels this is a burden. It's not going to be cheaper in a few years to do this. Five, saying that the city should take out a lien on the property in case the owner sells. So that kind of brought me to one of my questions was, if they build this, they haven't done the underground because we give them the deferment, and then they say, you know what, I've got this person that contacted me, said they want to pay me 3 times what I paid to do this thing, I'm going to take my money and run. How does that work for the deferment? Because, so if they sell the property after they build all this, but they have not yet done the undergrounding, if we give them the deferment, how would the new owner
Be
still,
subject to the
they'd still be subject,
to it.
okay. Then we received a letter from Cindy Bernard. Okay, well, we're gonna skip hers because she is reporting on this today. And then we received one from Pat Flanagan. So I got this all right before the meeting, so I'm trying to remember what I read. So, I think they're kind of not so much on board with the deferment. So, so now we've opened public comment. I have some comment slips, so we're gonna go through them. Ben is the applicant, yes? You've spoken. Shannon Kerrigan?
Hi, my name is Shane Kerrigan. I'm a resident here in 29 Palms. I simply am in favor of the deferral. That works.
Perfect. Gretchen Grunt? Yes, he did.
Favor.
Yes.
It
Yep.
was hard to hear.
I'm here as the messenger for Pat Flanagan. She wrote this letter. Dear Planning Commissioners, I offer the following comments on Reset Hotel's request to defer installing underground utilities until Phase 2 of their project. I support the deferment only if Phase 2 is a certainty, and I suggest the additional finding with actions be added to the agreement. If Phase 2 is not a certainty by 2026, then the Planning Commission must require undergrounding be initiated and paid for by Reset. The Reset Hotel is located just south of Joshua Tree National Park. Phase 2 of the project is closer yet to the park boundary. The map below shows a project bordering the undisturbed drainage from Queen Mountain. This landscape is habitat for the California desert tortoise, listed as endangered by the California Department of Fish and Game Commission in April 2024. Extra care must be taken to comply with the listing and to honor the city's general plan guiding principle number 2, to encourage high-quality development compatible with the Joshua Tree National Park. And number 4, to preserve the desert environment and its natural and cultural resources for future generations. The abundant raven is a well-known predator of baby desert tortoise to feed their young. The problem is so severe that the military bases in the Mojave Desert have an ongoing program to eliminate some 12,000 ravens. Ravens did not begin to develop high numbers in the desert until after World War I, when phone and utility poles began lining the desert, providing places to nest and hunt from. Above-ground utility poles will attract ravens to the Reset Hotel location, which could be detrimental to the locale tortoise population. Finding recommendations to deter ravens nesting, perching, and baby tortoise hunting. Anti-perching spikes must be attached to the top of the poles. Native plants that do not require much water should be used and only watered early in the morning. A brochure educating guests to dispose of food waste in closed containers so as not to attract ravens should be provided. Thank you for your consideration and consideration to add the raven problem finding. Sincerely, Pat Flanagan.
Thank you. Last name Bridgestein? Oh, sorry. I am horrible with names.
It's phonetically correct as Bridenstine. I'm Vicki Bridenstine. I was the engineer on the project, and I wanted to clarify your questions regarding my comments when we vacated Foothill Boulevard. And it was in reference to our existing CUP that showed those boxes of Phase 2 on that plan. And those were the ones that they were vacating. They didn't want to do that anymore once they bought the additional properties. They wanted to, spread it out a little bit. And I also wanted to address the comment about SCE and didn't they know. We applied to SCE for undergrounding in October of 2022. And they just now got the estimate to the developer. So 2022 to 2024, over 2 years it took them to come up with the cost for these guys to do that. So that, that was right after we were approved for the project. We moved forward in a timely manner and, it just takes them a long, long time. So I just wanted to clarify those two issues, so.
Then we've got Brent McAfee.
Hello, I'm a resident of 29 Palms in the unincorporated area. But I'm in favor of the deferral. I've also had some issues with SCE when I was getting my place up to residential code. And on a smaller scale, I applied, did all the paperwork, had all the talks with SCE. It was 6 months before I got the pole put in that I had to pay for myself. And in that time, I think it went up 15 to 20% in price, which for somebody that's just trying to, get by was a lot of money and a lot of difference. So to jack up the price to this and have a monopoly over the situation feels a little bit, yeah, I'm in favor of the deferral for possibly another option.
Thank you. And then I believe Austin Ramsey has submitted a card, but they're not here, correct? Ashton? Yeah. Ashton is in favor of the deferral. Do we have anybody else who wishes to make public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Bring it back up here for further discussion. Don't all speak at once.
Go
Can
ahead.
you bring up back to the ordinance with the four
Finding.
thank you. What they're subject to? Okay, thank you. All right, so we already had answered in the last meeting about, for one, with the approved city engineer. The reasonable cost one, I think that's where there's still not quite the answer to that, the reasonable cost. We know that electrician, is that, so one question I had for the applicant, is that what you had in the line item for the budget?
Correct.
Okay. And then two would be, is for the total, so it's reasonable for the entire scope, but what is the approximation of that percentage or of
This
the?
represents about 3% of the total construction budget.
Thank you. And then the date certain, I know, or for the future date, I know we've added that into the mix. And so then the last one would be improvements directly. So I wanted to stay for the fourth one. I did go ahead and walk the site with Ben. I looked at everything on the street just to confirm with myself that that is consistent. All of the utilities along that street are still existing above ground utilities. And he did show me where they were planning to underground it and all of the trenching and everything that is there I did see those things. So those are my questions for now.
Just real quick while you're up there,
Yeah.
do you think 5 years might be too long to give you to kind of work out with SCE to get a negotiated terms for doing this? Do you think maybe less time or
We want the flexibility to negotiate with a one-party vendor.
right? I'm
Right.
with you.
Yeah. So our goal is to get phase 2 going sooner rather than later. I mean, it's a lot of infrastructure relative to 65 rooms. So that I think is a pretty clear incentive, and that's also why we added for the 90-something when we originally went. So I think between those two things, my personal guess, obviously we got to go through some entitlements and stuff like that, although certainly faster than getting an answer from SCE. That's really what this comes down to, is about timing. We need an answer so we can start working with them. And because what's interesting about SCE, they're so big that they don't really care if it goes underground or below ground. They just are going to make you go through their process. They're not going to go fast, and they're in complete control. So we just want to get back to the point where we can work really hard and control our own destiny, and work with the city staff to continue to be as compliant as possible. So we would really appreciate a decision today.
May I ask?
To follow up with Ms. Kier, you've staged for underground, or you've pulled and you've ran underground to your project?
Okay, so all along between all those poles,
Mm-hmm.
there's conduit connecting those poles right now. So SCE could remove those poles and pull the wire without doing it. That was all the work. That was the $220,000 of work that our general contractor, Doug Wall Construction, did.
Mm-hmm.
So even those conduits, the big gray kind of
Mhm.
plastic pipes, they're not just buried deep under the ground. They got the sand around them, they got the concrete around them, and they're already to the box. So again, we know construction. Like we planned that all out. We always knew that we were going to have to do that. The challenge is you just don't know what SCE is going to charge you for their little portion of the design part. And that's what took 2 years and some change for them to get their portion of the design done and then tell us what it was going to cost.
So
Understood.
SCE has to do their design for the tie-in to his utilities that he's already undergrounded to take the poles out, to get the transformers off the poles and do that. So their effort is awfully expensive. They're proud of their work.
Yeah.
I have one more question. I guess maybe it's more for this staff. Is for the if it was 5 years, does that mean it needs to be completed within the 5 years, or is that, yes, so it's completion?
I have a question for staff as well. And forgive me for asking, I apologize in advance, Mr. Gardner. Okay. So if our code requires the undergrounding for those poles that have been existing there already, we had this enthusiastic person want to come and develop our city, and they've chosen this location. It's wonderful. Those were already there the whole time, Raven or not, we're always there. He's developing. The requirement for the building, because he chose that, is he must underground those poles, not just underground what he has on his property.
Yes, that's what the word is.
That's correct.
Just like he's got to do curbs and gutter along the
Right.
road frontage of his piece of property.
Right, in the rural rustic area
Mhm.
that we were requiring that because our development code, right. Okay.
Alex, any questions, comments?
When it comes to the 5 years, I kind of had the same thought process that you had. I was curious if they necessarily need the full 5 years, or if there was like,
Well, it was 2 years to get an email from
yeah,
him,
to get in.
so-
That's
Well,
what he had
it's
explained.
5.
5
It was
years is
5
like
years or until phase 2, right?
Up to 5 years, right? And then
But if they come, like when phase 2 is started, would they need, like what point of phase 2 is it? When they start phase 2, by the completion of phase 2?
It'd be difficult for them to underground after phase 2 is mostly done, so it'd have to be in the process of phase 2. So it wouldn't be at the very beginning either. It'd probably be towards the beginning, but not before they even get started on phase
So
two.
if we do the deferment, could we write into there that before the completion of phase two, the undergrounding must take place?
Yeah.
Or 5 years?
Yeah, we can make that clarification in the deferment agreement.
And that would be necessary? Because isn't 5 years like strong enough? Even if he started like phase two, are we're gonna give him that allowance of working with, you know, the flexibility that's being asked of? You know, I don't think that it would be so, what if he does really well and then all of a sudden he's got another year, but SC&E's just kind of like, I think that would be a little like opposite
Right,
of deferment.
I don't think we need to be super strict on it if we're gonna do it. I just,
Right, so I'm sensing like a 5-year deferment.
I think we still need to leave in there the phase two caveat.
Well, the timeline on the phase two is 6 to 9 months, so that would be much quicker, right?
Yeah, at least from the report, yeah.
So I don't know where we came up. I don't know where the 5 years came
I think
from.
the 5
But-
years was just kind of what, when we did the deferment for the car wash, that was what they requested,
Okay.
was 5 years.
I wasn't here for
And
that meeting, so.
So that's kind of, I think, where we've just kind of
Watch the video.
gravitated. If that was good for them, I think we're gonna,
Make it consistent if that's the case.
yeah.
Okay.
So-
Would there be like no incentive to do phase two then, if you have to work with the you know what I mean? Like 5 years is a deferment, and then now you're going to be like, well, hey, if you start phase two, you have this
Well,
extra giant cost, like,
I would say
it's, how do you balance that?
I think either way, they're gonna have the giant cost, right?
Yeah.
5 years or
So
phase
5
two.
years is a good within 5 years. He could choose whenever he's gonna do it, but if you say when you start phase two, because what if that starts over here in like 2, then,
Oh, I agree with you.
okay,
Yes.
I think his main purpose is to have
time.
time to work with SCE, and I don't think that's gonna dictate whether he does phase two or when he starts phase two.
Could he drag on phase two if it's upon completion?
Yes, but I haven't turned the last screw on phase two.
Right.
But it's,
Right.
okay, that's why you have to
That's-
have the two conditions in there.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
So
it's
you
just
want
whole,
two
it's
conditions.
accountability,
You
I
want the
suppose.
two conditions, because if phase two gets delayed and delayed and delayed, you still have,
Time to do the deferment.
you still have the time on the deferment.
Understood.
So I think I'm sensing we're all kind of on the same page a little bit, right? Maybe? Can I get a motion?
Okay. What am I motioning specifically?
But okay, so
Okay,
it's
thank
it's
you.
to approve of the
I'll make a m-
deferment
yeah.
and approval of the deferment agreement, subject to,
Okay, and you want me to read every single one? Yeah. So I make a motion for the planning commission to support the deferment of installation of underground utilities. Then you want me to read all of them? Okay. One,
you can say staff's recommendation.
okay, for
as
staff's,
modified today.
as staff's recommendation of modified today with the 5 years
Mhm.
or
The completion of
the
phase two.
completion of phase two. Completion, okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Pahana,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kier,
Aye.
Chair Walker,
Aye.
approved.
Okay. Community Development Director updates.
So I have two. We are currently out for recruitment for planning commissioners. There are 2 seats whose terms are ending, so I just want to make that also publicly announced here. Any current commissioners would have to reapply if their term is coming up. I just want to make that clear. Also, I want to talk about next year's calendar. If we go strictly by first and third Tuesdays, those are the dates. So I have already preemptively canceled January the 7th, because that is a week after the holidays, and we'd have to get everything published on New Year's Day. So it's not, we're just going to preemptively cancel that one. I think the my perception is that December the 2nd, that's also the first Tuesday in December where there's the city holiday parade. I think the commission appreciated the opportunity to
Yes,
attend that.
very much so.
So the other dates you see there are, that are in red are planning commission dates that also happen to fall within a week of a holiday. So if the commission would like, for instance, the 4th of July, maybe we can preemptively cancel that one, but I'm just throwing it out there. If the commission sees this calendar and wants to cancel any other days preemptively, and we'll just plan accordingly at this time. We can always cancel other dates in the future if needed, but
Besides January 7th and December 2nd, the red holidays you're suggesting to cancel as well?
I'm not suggesting to cancel.
Oh.
I'm just saying that they also
Those
happen
are
to-
holidays.
Those are weeks that
That
also
week.
have holidays.
Oh, okay. Chair, if we can, I'm okay to keep April 1st, and then the remaining red, I would like to not have a.
All of the remaining red? Because
Ex-
it's, then you wouldn't have a January 21st either.
Well, we have to do January 21st.
We have to, we
You
do
have to do
certain.
January 21st.
So I think I'm okay with not doing the July 1st or September 2nd.
Well, I guess we could do President's Day. You have Monday off, right? And then you come to this on Tuesday. How do you feel about that?
I don't celebrate any of those holidays,
So
so
I suppose individually we could get an excused absence.
I'll work
Yes.
probably through them
Okay.
anyways.
So yeah, but besides the July 1st and September 2nd, I'm good. with
I
that.
agree with.
You're
Chair.
good with
I agree
keeping the
with
rest of
Chair.
them?
I agree with Chair. July and September, no, thank you.
The rest of them are gonna, and then we're canceling January 2nd, January 7th and December the 2nd.
Correct.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
That is planning for you.
See?
No,
So
no study
July
sessions.
1st,
No study
September
sessions.
2nd.
No
Yeah.
study sessions today.
No study sessions.
All
today.
right. And as always, I know some folks left, but I do want to thank everybody for coming out because your guys' comments and voices really help us, and it makes it brings some clarity to what the people of Troy and Palms are actually looking to have done, and what their feelings are and things. So
Well said. we
we appreciate you guys, and your continued support is always welcome. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.